back and better today, always improving on yesterday. Welcome to an episode of the Rip Jersey Podcast. I'm your host, James D. Jackson. I got my man with me, JG Smooth. We are back at it, man. We got a lot to talk about. There's no longer going to be an NFL team that is undefeated this season as the Eagles fall to the Commanders. And we got to talk about the NBA, which seems like it's been flipped upside down. JG, man, who you got for your MVP right now in the NBA?
To me, it should be Luka Doncic, and it's not really close. I mean, you're talking about the man leading the league in scoring, carrying an average Dallas team to above average height. We saw it last year. I mean, I know they could say it was Jalen Brunson, but let's be honest here. They're not. Dallas is not winning games if there's no Luka, and I think like just the sheer minutes that he plays, his play style, the beating that he takes, he is a bigger guard. I think I have to give it to Luka at this point.
Yeah, Luka, man. I think in mine right now is Jason Tatum of the Boston Celtics. As I predicted before the season some of the teams I thought would be great at the end of the year, and that seems to be turned upside down. Jason Tatum is a leader of one of those teams. I got his right, but I didn't get a lot of other ones right. Let's get right into it.
All right, let's go. Here's the first story of the day.
So now, if you're watching this on the podcast, on the YouTube app, you see the top 5 teams along with the 2 honorable mention teams on the screen. If you're on the podcast app, I'll read it to you. I had the Warriors, the Bucks, the Celtics, the Clippers, the 76ers, the Nets, and the Grizzlies as my top 5 with the 2 honorable mention teams. And that just, JG shaking his head right now. That is a very bad pick so far. It hasn't turned out that way so far. My thought process was the Warriors, they got everybody back from their championship year. So they should be the top team. But they're having problems on the defensive side this year, and especially when their bench unit comes in, because this team is just falling short. The team is just falling short. Steph Curry has been great so far, and then you got the Bucks who have Giannis, the best player in the NBA, I would say, coming out of the East, and then you got the Celtics, which is led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, as we talked about. But JG, man, what are you seeing right now? Why is everything turned upside down? What's so different about this year compared to what I had thought it would be going forward?
Well, I think first, let me address this. Now, I as a Brooklyn Nets fan, I dearly appreciate you putting them on your top 5. However, I wish you had consulted me before you did that, because I could have informed you that was a grave mistake, because our franchise is an absolute train wreck at this point in time. Kevin Durant, kudos to that man for single-handedly carrying this train wreck of a team right now. We've gotten better with Jacques Vaughn, but I could have told you that was not going to go well. Now, as far as the Warriors, I think that surprised everybody, because I think, right, they're running it back. I know their bench kind of changed somewhat, but they brought in like Thunder legend Ty Jerome, and I feel like I'm forgetting. Hey, listen, I still believe deep down in somewhere in Ty Jerome's inner being, there is a slight 2% chance he can become Joe Harris. I still believe that. So that I think is probably the most surprising. The Bucks, they started off really good. I know Giannis has kind of been hurt, and then Boston has done really well under some tough circumstances. You also mentioned Philly. Again, that's another franchise. It's not as much of a train wreck as the Nets are, but they just don't understand how to get assets around Joel Embiid. Like, you bring in Harden, and to me, Harden is a regular season player when he wants to play. So, I feel like
this is my thing. This is my thing on the Sixers, though. James Harden was coming back, right? He took less money for the team, so he's already showing that he's a team player at this point. He took less money for him. He's back in shape, so he's getting back into shape where he was MVP, James Harden. And now he's learned. He's had a year under this offense, so he knows the schematics and how these guys move around the 76ers court. And you think that familiarity would cause for him to be better, and he's been better this year overall. Himself as a solo act, he's been better. But just as of right now, the 76ers have been falling short. And I'm not sure what the reason for that is just yet, because Joel Embiid has also played well. So it's a big mystery to me about what the 76ers have done so far this year.
I think Philly. I mean, Philly to that roster to me is not it's top heavy. The roster's top heavy clearly, and I still don't think that they found a way to properly utilize Tobias Harris. Right, like Tobias Harris isn't a guy you sit on the corner and say, "Listen, we're gonna just throw it to you, and I'm gonna need you to shoot." I don't know what 35, 40% from three. That's not Tobias Harris's game. And I think if you're limiting him to that role, you're wasting money that you invested in him, and you're also wasting another guy that can go get you 20 points a game. I think that's their biggest problem, is trying to figure out how to utilize all the pieces. And Doc Rivers has not found that success yet.
It's a sad thing right now for the 76ers. Sad thing going on. The Clippers also. I didn't know that Kawhi Leonard was going to be this hurt still. I think the injury that he suffered back with the Spurs that first time, where it was a big ordeal, I think that's been a lot more impactful on his career than we initially thought it would be. We thought he was just sitting out because he just didn't feel like playing. But I think he knows something more than what most people can see from the outside looking in, because he continues to load manage or rehab that injury. And he's just not playing right now. And the Clippers, they did all this work to get Paul George and Kawhi Leonard on that same team, especially when they had Lou Will and guys like that that were still great for that unit. They haven't been able to capitalize on any of that. Reggie Jackson has been your best player so far this year because Kawhi Leonard's been out so much. And then Paul George, he's still getting into his rhythm as well after he was hurt all last year. So it's just a weird thing going on with the Clippers. It seems like they always have an issue down the stretch, especially with, like the Lakers as well. We thought these two LA teams would dominate the NBA, and they're just not doing that right now. I mean, I don't understand what's going on with that, man.
Now, James.
Now, hey, when Russell
James,
and this is before Russell. This is before Russell got there. This is before Russell got there, JG. This is before Russell. Come on, man. LeBron James and Anthony Davis had just won a championship. Okay, they just won it. We were expecting more from them. We were expecting another chip from them, maybe.
But
is that not right? Is that not right?
Okay, but they lost the whole supporting cast, James. Right? Like you know what I mean? Like there wasn't what there was no more what
Danny Green was great for that team.
Right, okay, but like Rondo was gone, right? Like
Rondo was great.
Dwight Howard was he not gone? I mean, like I feel like a lot of those role players that helped that team, they just said, we don't need you. We'll find some more average to borderline washed up vets, and we see it hasn't happened. And I mean, again, like when they got Russ, I knew it wasn't going to work, because how are you going to have two ball dominant guys in LeBron and Rush, and then still have to find a way to get AD touches? And then, oh, by the way, the rest of your roster are like borderline, 10th through 15th men on most rosters? I mean, like, that's not going to work, James. You know what I mean?
It's not going to work, but we still were expecting a lot. We thought the Battle of LA would be a lot better than it is. Clippers have won the last 9 in that series so far. I mean, so they're playing good against the Lakers, just they're not a top 5 team as I initially thought this season. Let's get into who is in the top 5 right now, along with the 2 honorable mentions. I think first, the honorable mention teams will go from the bottom to the top. I think Memphis is number 7 right now. Ja Morant and Desmond Bane. Those 2 guys have been great this year. They had, can build off of what they built last year. Just kind of getting to the playoffs and getting to a great situation before Ja Morant got injured in the playoffs against the Golden State Warriors. But the Memphis, they have a lot of good things going out there. I think number 6 is the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young and DeJounte Murray. And now, around the office, I want to get your reaction to this, JG. Around the office before this season, I work for the newspaper out in OKC. We all made our predictions on, the biggest trade, the rookie of the years, things like that. I said the biggest trade of this season was DeJounte Murray to the Atlanta Hawks. Now, everybody else on the staff seemed to be going with Minnesota and Gobert, that trade. Clearly, that's not right. So I'm happy with this so far. I'm happy with this so far. I said it was DeJounte Murray. What do you think about that?
I mean, if we're comparing to DeJounte Murray to Rudy Gobert, I mean, that, like, I don't know. I don't understand the Rudy Gobert hype. Like, okay, I get he's an elite defensive player, but like, since we're in 2022, since when does playing 2 bigs equate to success in the league with small balls and threes. I don't know. Okay, but to your point of DeJounte Murray, yeah, I think that was a great trade because of the fact now it allows Trae Young to play more of the two guard. It allows him more, I guess you would say, more ability to be able to score the basketball. Simply because now he can't get double teamed as much, right? Because DeJounte Murray can penetrate, and I think it's a great move by the Hawks. I think they're still kind of figuring out that dynamic, which is why you kind of see some puzzling losses in there. But I think, maybe around mid-season All-Star break, when they really form that chemistry, I think this is a team that can definitely make a deep playoff run.
Definitely. The trades now, see, I wasn't necessarily right either on the biggest trade this season, because what actually was the biggest trade was Lauri Markkanen to the Utah Jazz and Donovan Mitchell to the Cavaliers. Surprising everybody, because number 5 on my top 5 list right now is the Utah Jazz. And however you want to look at it, just a few games ago, they probably were like top 2, top 3, based on their record and what they've done so far this year. Lauri Markkanen has been incredible this year. It's not something we thought he could do, but I guess he's found his right situation to where he can dominate alongside Jordan Clarkson. Those two guys have been amazing all year. Number 4, I have Nikola Jokic, obviously, 2-time MVP, leading his team, the Denver Nuggets. They're finally healthy, JG. They're finally healthy. They got everybody back, so they're going to be a top team in the West. They already were without everybody being healthy, so now they got everybody back on the floor, especially Michael Porter Jr. It's been great for them so far. Number 3, Damian Lillard in the Portland Trail Blazers. I didn't think Anthony Simons would be their second leading scorer, though. That's surprising to me. Now, I know we didn't expect a lot out of the Portland Trail Blazers, but Anthony Simons being your second leading scorer, that's amazing at 22.3 points per game, just behind Damian Lillard with 28.6.
Well, who did you have? I mean, what Jeremy Grant? I feel like there's not many options there. Let's just be honest, though. Now,
Jeremy Grant is he could be a second leading scorer, because we weren't expecting the Portland Trail Blazers to be a playoff team. Like, you were expecting them to be a rebuilding team this year. So Jeremy Grant being your second leading scorer on a rebuilding team, I think, is a fair point.
I mean, now just because the way that organization believes in Anthony Simons, the way they paid him. I figured he'd be the second leading scorer. I figured Jeremy Grant would be the third leading scorer, assuming he's healthy, because as lately the man never is healthy. But I'm not too surprised that Anthony Simons is second leading scorer, because the way that he emerged late last season, I think is just a preview of what's to come, and was a big reason why they kind of shipped out CJ McCollum. Okay,
I'll let you have that. Number 2, the Boston Celtics, obviously, to the finals last year, just came up short. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been amazing. So that's one of the teams I got right from my early predictions before this season, JG. So I'm very proud of at least one of them getting in there. And the other that I got right was Milwaukee Bucks. Giannis, Jrue Holiday. They were undefeated for 9 straight games before they got their first loss. And that's because Giannis hasn't been playing the last couple of games. He's been out. And they've been out without their second leading scorer all season, and Chris Middleton as well. I mean, when they get this whole unit back, there's no doubt they're going to be the best team in the NBA, especially with the Warriors, being down as they are. What do you think about that, JG?
I think you got to give Mike Budenholzer credit. I think you also got to give that Bucks second unit credit, those role players, right? Like Javon Carter had, 36 against the Thunder, right? Grayson Allen's kind of showing the potential that everybody thought he had. Brook Lopez has a career renaissance right now, which warms my heart as a Brooklyn Nets fan. I think that they're playing really great team basketball, and I think that's like a reason why Utah's having their success. I think when a coach knows a roster strength and tailor the game plan to that strength, you couple that with teams maybe over. Now, obviously, no one's overlooking the Bucks, but if you were to face the Bucks and there's no Giannis and there's no Middleton, you'd feel pretty confident in your chances to be able to stay in or win that game. And so I have to give the Bucks credit here for the way that they've been playing great team basketball. They play smart basketball, and so I'm not too surprised by their success in terms of because they're doing that. But just in terms of the success they've had without their top 2 guys has been somewhat surprising.
Yeah, it's incredible. But hey, let's get into the next thing.
Here's the second story of the day.
So there's no longer going to be an undefeated team in the NFL. I think, should we put our left hands up, JG, for the Commanders? Is that the viral song that goes on around there? I mean, of all teams to beat the Eagles and give them their first loss of the year, the Washington Commanders, JG. What's going on out here? Hey, let me tell you something. This is why I love the NFL more than I love the college football. College football, you know who's going to win those games. The scheduling, you can schedule it however you want to schedule it. You know they're going against weaker opponents. In the NFL, it just takes one or two plays in nearly every game that decides seasons for teams. You look at the Rams; they were, the Super Bowl champions last year. Now they're down. It's just because it's just luck. It's so hard to get back to back Super Bowl appearances because of how competitive these teams are and how close they are in terms of talent and will to win games. What we're seeing right now from the Commanders with new quarterback, they got rid of your man, JG. They got rid of your man. Got Taylor Heineke up there running the offense for.
Wait. Now, who's my man? What, Carson Wentz? Who we talking about here?
That's your guy.
Carson Wentz. Nah, what is Carson Wentz? Ever been my guy here? Carson Wentz has been nobody's guy since the minute he got hurt and Nick Foles came in there and won the Super Bowl. Carson Wentz has been hopefully the guy for the Colts. We saw how that went. And then Washington was so desperate that they traded for him. And now there's a debate again about whether or not do we start Heineke or do we start Carson Wentz, who we're paying Uber bucks to. And to me, I have to start Taylor Heineke. Like, why would you not ride the hot hand? You know what I mean?
That's what's working for him right now. He's actually got a winning record in Washington. It's not a lot of quarterbacks can say that right now. I mean, but so you get back to this game. Jalen Hurts went on the podium after the game and said, you have to control what you can control. That's what he's been saying all year long. The Eagles, they lost this game, I think, more than the Commanders won it. The Commanders just kind of, held the possession of the ball, got to third downs and converted on more than half of those in this game. But the Eagles had so many penalties. They fumbled the ball twice. They had the Graham's late hit on Heineke that, would have gave you another chance to have possession of that ball. It's just a lot of things that they beat themselves on. Now, granted, they had that fumble that should have been a face mask, which I guess you can't go back and review that, which is the weirdest rule in sports. Why can't I just correct it? If we're trying to get the right call, let's get it corrected the right way. If I see it's a face mask, JG, let me call it a face mask. What's going on with that, man? Why is that the rules?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why we can't go back and do a penalty. You know what I mean? It's like, why? I mean, isn't that what the review should be for? Is to get it right? I mean, if there's a blatant face mask, it'd be a blatant face mask. Like, you can't just have game-altering plays that stand because, we didn't call the face mask in real time, so, it's our mistake, but, I feel like the leagues are too lenient on the refs, and we need to hold referees accountable as well, because as we've seen, bad calls like that, missed calls like that can alter games, that can alter seasons. This
was a big game, JG. However you want to look at it, when you see the Commanders on the field, you don't think it's a big game, but Philly they're trying to go undefeated. Wouldn't the NFL want a team to be undefeated? You got to make sure you get the best calls and the best referees on the field. I'm not saying make sure they win. I'm saying make sure you get make sure you get a fairly called game. That's all I'm saying. Make sure it's a good game where you let the players decide on the field so we don't have this issue.
Yes, okay, good. I agree now, because the way you had that phrase earlier was just like league needs to make sure at all costs.
Yeah. I'm not doing that.
We want to clarify that, James.
I'm not doing that. Let's get into the next thing, man.
Here's By the Numbers.
By the numbers here, and they are some pretty surprising numbers. I think the NBA season has been surprising, as James and I have just discussed. But even more surprising is the league leaders. Obviously, looking at offensive leaders from a point standpoint, right, the top three is not a surprise. It's Luka, Joel, and Jason Tatum. However, though, the 4 and 5th, Donovan Mitchell and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, both averaging over 31 points a game. I feel like this has kind of gone under the radar here, which is a crying shame, because especially Shea. I think people have kind of been questioning Shea a little bit in terms of his ability to stay healthy and the Thunder's investment in him. And I think right now he's showing it tenfold. You're looking at the assist leaders right now. You would have told me Tyrese Halliburton would be leading the league in assists. I would have called you crazy. Same thing with blocks as well. Brook Lopez leads the league at blocks at 2.5 a game. Like, are we back in 2010 here? I mean, I just, like, Kevin Durant is 4th in blocks. This is some weird stats here. Like, Dennis Smith Jr. 5th in the league in steals at 1.9. I don't know, James. Like, what is going on this NBA season to where you've got teams like the Kings 3rd highest field goal percentage? Like the Brooklyn Nets are leading the league in blocks. Like what is going on here, James?
Wait, I didn't even know about that one. The Brooklyn Nets leading.
The Brooklyn Nets lead the league in blocks at 7.5 a game.
That's.
I just as a Brooklyn Nets fan, I'm floored by this number here because. We historically, the last few seasons, do not know how to play defense. So, the Pacers are 2nd in blocks. The Thunder are 5th in blocks, which I imagine would have been higher if they had Chet on the roster.
Yeah, that definitely would have been higher.
I mean, what is going on here, James? Why is this happening?
This chase for Victor Wembanyama, and Scoot Henderson, those two guys. This chase for them is, I think, caused mayhem around the NBA. Teams don't know if they want to tank. They don't know if they want to compete. And you get situations like this. You get situations like this where the Thunder are middle of the road, middle of the pack right now because they're just playing teams that don't know if they're tanking or going forward. You got teams that had big moves, like the Wolves we talked about. They're still trying to figure out how to even make that work. It's just crazy stuff that's happening right now, JG. It's crazy stuff.
Well, you mentioned the tanking, and like I know that the league is watching that intently. So you really can't tank unless you're truly bad. And so I think like teams like Houston, teams like Orlando, okay, that are just truly bad teams. Like they even look on paper, like the Pistons, they're truly bad teams. But I think if you're a team like Utah. I feel like if you're a Utah Jazz fan, you got to be torn here because it's like on one hand, this is great. We're like winning games that people thought we'd lose. At the same time, though, with every win, you're watching your odds of landing a generational talent like Victor slowly disintegrate before your eyes. And I feel like that's got to be tough, right? I mean, from that standpoint. Then from the Thunder standpoint, at this point, like, you're too good to tank. Like, I think now they try to tank, it'd be more brutally obvious that they are tanking because the roster is at a point where it's like, okay, obviously we're not a contender, but you can't tell me that we don't have a shot at the play-in. So I feel like there's a lot of those middle of the road teams that haven't yet been able to tank. Maybe later in the season they start to tank. But I think right now, like, if you're Detroit, if you're Orlando, like if you're the Kings, you need to start losing as many games now as humanly possible. Like I'm talking like just, I don't know what you got to do. Like for like some of those teams, you just do nothing because your team is just that bad. But like, better your odds now before teams have a quote unquote reason to tank.
Man, I've been in talks with some of the Jazz fans and their people just on this podcast. Just them listening to me and getting back with them. The Jazz don't know how to tank, JG. They've never tanked before. When was the last time the Jazz tanked? Never.
Never.
They develop players. They trade players. They get them and they develop them into stars. That's what they do out there, and that's just what it's been. For the Thunder, you need Chet. You need Chet if you want to go after it. They don't have it right now. Although I did pick the Thunder to win 30 games this year. And I'm feeling very good about that. I had the most in the office. Everybody else was lower than that. I'm glad. I think
why?
I think they can get 30.
Wait a minute, why? I mean, so were we expecting another tank season? But I felt like
yes.
Even objectively on paper that the team is too good to tank, right? It's like like last year, the year before. Okay, you could kind of see, okay, yeah, it's Shea, it's only Shea. But, like, you had development of guys. Like, you've seen the development of Dort, right? Like, Robinson Earl's solid. Poku starting to finally come around, right? Like, I feel like they're too good to be bad, if that makes sense. Like, if they were to all of a sudden start tanking, I think it would look worse because they're too good to do that, if that makes sense. Like, they're kind of in that middle of the road where they can beat anybody even any given night, but they should be able to beat X, Y, and Z.
Definitely. Well, hey, that's all we have for you today. I'm James G. Jackson. That's JG Smooth, and this has been the Rip Jersey Podcast, and we appreciate you for sticking around with us. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it this far, like and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, I have a podcast called Rip Jersey. Follow that, add it to your playlist. Listen to it wherever you can. Thanks for watching again. Peace.